after the show, came up to me and said, "That was great, can we sign you?" You know, I said, "Wow, you know, this is what it was all about, right? This is what it was for." And that sort of started it all for me. I had my first album, but there was a problem. He was an executive, or he was running EMI or something, I'm not sure, but he went to EMI with this thing, this news. He told his colleagues that he found the singer and he wanted to sign the singer, and they turned him down. They said, "Forget it, no one's interested." So you know what he did? He resigned from EMI, and he funded my album himself. He took me to a studio in Serangoon Gardens and in MacPherson, and we recorded on, you know, he actually quit his job. And and he's another guy, you know, who had so much faith in me. I was only 17. So then I had my first album, and you know, with the fate with all men in Singapore is that you get a bit of fame and then you got to go to the army. So that's it. So I mean, this is a terrible thing now. Those days, no deferment. You know? So I went to the army. So I couldn't do, you know, I couldn't pursue that just after the album came out. Real waste. So, but I decided, you know, I mean, one of my theories of life is that if you're going to do it, you might as well enjoy it. You know, always look on the bright side and all that. I'm an optimist. So I said, I'm going to either I be miserable for the next 2 years or I have fun. So I tried to have fun, and I joined NDC, Music and Drama Company. I managed to get in, and that was great. So I had 2 years of singing and dancing. So I really made the most of it. Continued to do TV shows and all that, now as a soloist, because I had an album, you know. And then from there, I think we don't have time for the rest. This is only the first, my teen years, but basically I just continued to do it, and it's continued to be a struggle. That's all I will say. It continued to be a struggle because the market, the audience here continued to not be interested in local songs or in original music. But something happened, well, two things happened. I'll just share with you. One was when I went to London. After that I went to study fashion design in England, and I lived in London for 4 years. And of course, straight away, I'm fortunate because my family was able to send me abroad. But I had to lie and cheat and, you know, to get there, because I don't like to study, as you know. I had to find a course that you don't have to study. So I said, I'll go and do something. I know they knew I was artistic, so I would do art, but then I'm not that great an artist, so I thought graphic design. And then when I did the course, it was too technical. So I said fashion is good, because I had some experience with my mother having a boutique, so I could design clothes. Okay. Only when I joined the course, I realized you have to sew the damn thing that you draw. I thought you just draw, you know. But you have to sew it, you know. You literally have to go on a sewing machine. Have you ever tried to thread a sewing machine, guys? It's the hardest thing in the world. And so, of course, I just designed, and I sent back to Singapore for my tailor to make lah. And they sent it back up. That's how I passed, literally. But I spent my 4 years in London actually running around London, producing fashion shows, and I was in a band, and I did all the fun things that you're not supposed to do. I graduated, but I didn't even attend the graduation. I went to New York because I won a prize and everything, and I had a great time. But in the course of my studies there, I was working with a friend, and we formed a band, and I wrote songs. And I had some interest, you know. I had people that wanted to sign me and stuff. And one thing I remember very clearly was I took my songs and went to Chapel, the biggest publisher, and I went there. I walked into the office, and there was this guy sitting, an Englishman sitting at the desk. He looked at me, and before he even heard my music, he said, "Oh, you're Chinese?" I said, yes, I am. I know, I'm a student here from Singapore. And he says, "So, what have you got to say? You know, what's your music like as a Chinese?" You know, and that really shocked me, because I had at the time absolutely nothing to say. I'm just writing songs, you know, in English. And then he heard the songs, and he said, "Yeah, but they're nice songs, but then anyone in England could have written them." That's the first time I encountered this problem of I have to pay attention to who I am. I think it's important. I think it's very important. I mean, for all of you aspiring songwriters, you have to. If not, you're just copying. You're just blindly aping. And this is what I learned, that people are interested to hear what I have to say, whether it's about my life or what it was like growing up in Singapore, or if I write about, say, war or love, what is my take on it as a Singaporean, as a Chinese? And that's when I started questioning, okay, so what is it then? I'm Chinese, but I don't speak Chinese at all. I'm Peranakan, you see. Malay was my second language in those days when you could choose Malay as a second language. I don't speak Chinese. I don't feel Chinese. Singaporean, you know, at that time, what did that mean? Asian, because they generally in the West, I think if you go, they don't really care whether you're Burmese or Thai or Singaporean, Chinese, whatever. It's just Asian, right? So I started to really be a bit concerned, and I started to question all these things. Then that's when I started to infuse my work with my identity, which is why a lot of things that I do are very local, you know, very Singaporean. That was the one thing. And the other thing that happened when I came back was I continued to make music. At that time, Warner signed me. Warner Music. Jimmy Wee is another person that I really owe my existence to as a musician, because he really believed in me, backed me all the way, allowed me to record. And the first album I did with him was called Life in the Lion City, which was an album about Singapore things and all that. But it came out in 1983, I think, or 4, and it just completely, no one was interested still, you know, because during that time it was the time of Michael Jackson and all these things, and because of piracy in Singapore, all the record companies were selling albums and cassettes, those days, like $3, you know, originals, because they wanted to beat the pirates. So of course, it turned out that my album was more expensive than Michael Jackson. So why